Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and today I'm here with the legend that you've never heard of. He gets, you're so humble. How do you do that? I try to be humble, but you are a master of it.
I just don't know that I've done anything that special, but these guys I do believe are.
Well, you've done a lot of things. So I'm here with Judd McClanahan, and Judd, you're a fellow Kansas guy, correct?
Yep.
And you guys know I love highlighting Kansas reptile breeders. It's one of my favorite things to do because I think Kansas is a hotbed of reptiles. So Judd, tell me what you're holding right now.
This is a rough-scaled python. They're from a very tiny portion of Australia. The entire wild range is about 3 football fields, and they're from a very high altitude in a rocky area that you really can't hardly get to by foot.
Wow.
And they're the only python in the world that has rough scales. And in the wild, they eat what's called a rock rat. It's a rat that has developed, through evolution, has developed the ability to drop hair and skin when being bitten. So
Wow.
to counter that through evolution, these guys have enlarged front teeth to go deeper into this rock rat so they can actually capture it to eat it. These guys hatched out about 2 months ago. They were just a pretty typical incubation, about like most other pythons, nothing real tricky. They started eating pinky mice right away, and they've just done outstanding. They've probably doubled in size. They were very, very tiny when they hatched, and
Wow.
they were just all eyes. The eyes were huge.
Now you mentioned all eyes. When I look at these, it reminds me, I always compare boas and pythons because there's some similarities in the two. Even though they're completely different, live birth, eggs, whole 9 yards. But these really remind me on the eyes of the Amazon tree boa, right?
They do.
So you got that,
Which would tell you nocturnal.
right, nocturnal,
typically.
big, huge eye to take in a lot of light. Really amazing animal. And you said 3 football fields. Let's just put that in perspective, guys. That's 360 yards if you include the end zones, right? Teeny tiny area. And now, look, here's the thing. I know, Judd, you're extremely humble. You've been in this hobby how long?
40 plus years.
40 plus years. So this guy is a gem in Kansas, and you're, as far as we know, I mean, there's no way to tell for sure, but you're one of only 2 people to produce these that we know of, right?
As far as we know, there's not too many.
So you're not going to get these anywhere else.
These were actually, the first time these were actually exported out of Australia was to the reptile gardens in South Dakota.
Wow.
And that was about 12 years ago or so. There was an article in Reptiles magazine. That's when I actually became interested in these, and they produced some. So all the
awesome.
babies in this country, to my knowledge, are descendants from the original 3 that left Australia, because Australia is such a tight country as far as export. Nothing leaves. But they did that through a sister zoo association.
Okay, because it's very hard.
A zoo could receive them, individuals could not.
Yeah, because it's so hard to get stuff out of Australia.
Australia's so
Even
tough.
things that we have already. Like you can't
Dirty
get carpet
dragons,
pythons
things
or
like
nothing.
that, right?
Yeah,
Nothing wild caught leaves there. Everything's got
Absolutely.
to be captive born.
And they don't even import anything.
Then nothing goes in or out of Australia. They're
Australia.
extremely tight on their wildlife.
Yeah, Australia's such a kind of a weird ecosystem. They keep it that way, that ecosystem.
And everything from Australia has its quirks. Egg-laying mammal.
Right, the platypus, absolutely.
80% of their snakes are venomous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really neat stuff in Australia, and I really would love to get my hands on some more of the really rare, seldom seen, much less seldom bred animals. I would love to get my hands on some and continue working with other Australian species.
Australia is so neat because it's kind of its own big island. So its whole ecosystem was developed independently of everything else.
Many climate changes throughout that giant island.
Right, it's an amazing place. Now, when you talk about these two, we talk about the look being kind of similar to an Amazon tree boa, but this is an Amazon tree boa by nature to be biting the crap out of you right now. This thing seems pretty calm.
The adults are very gentle also. The adults are extremely gentle. They get about 6 feet long. Small carpet python proportions. Not big at all.
That makes sense being from Australia, right?
Right. So small carpet python proportions, and extremely gentle. They're intimidating looking because of their eyes and things, but they have a big head.
The big head.
Big head, little neck.
Right. Everybody wants to say
guys
big head, little neck equals venomous, or the slit eye, the cat eye equals venomous.
Right.
But that only works in North America.
North America. That's the only one that works.
And this being Australia, obviously it's not North America.
And all of your pythons and boas, most of your pythons and boas have elliptical pupils.
Right. And so these guys are completely safe to keep. And I mean, with 2 people breeding them, it's going to take a while. But if you want to get involved in this project, contact us. We'll get you in touch with Judd because he'd love to get you hooked up with this. I'm excited about this because it's so cool that Kansas is producing something that nobody else is. I think that's amazing. I really do.
Thank you. I am very honored to be able to work with them. We had to look long and hard to find. We have 2 pair of adults.
Wow.
And we had to look very hard to get those. And they've been. This is our first attempt at breeding. John Stoltz and I split this project.
Of course, John's another Kansas guy right out of Wichita.
Another Kansas guy. I work for John. I live an hour and 15 minutes away from him, and I work for those guys. And we have just had a ball working with oddball stuff.
And if you guys are familiar with Olympus Reptiles, we actually filmed at Tails and Scales in Wichita a few months back, which is John Stoltz.
You did.
His shop.
I remember that.
Which is awesome. And we've actually purchased stuff from Judd, and we purchased stuff from John. If you watch our Florida videos, you produce our Desert Ghost Pastel, correct?
I did.
And I'm pretty certain John was the one that produced our Xanthic our pinstripe.
He did that too.
So you can't go wrong with these cans. I literally drove all the way to Florida to buy some stuff from some guys from Kansas.
Kansas is very underrated.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You always hear about California, you always hear about Florida. Screw the coast, come to the Midwest. Kansas is where it's at. I know. I'm sorry, Cusco. I'm sorry, but Kansas is awesome.
Rust scales and corn and wheat.
Scales and corn and wheat. That's exact. Kurt, anything you want to add about the snake or any questions about the snake before we move on to Patreon?
How big do they get as adults?
They'll get about 6 feet or so. Fairly slender, an inch and a half in diameter. Not very big, nothing too large. Small rats are about the largest you'll ever need. They'll never get to a medium rat size. Fantastic eaters, very aggressive eaters.
That's awesome.
No feeding response like retics and things. Very, very minimal.
Awesome.
They remind me of the anacondas. They sample everything before they strike. It's not just a strike and hope that's food. So
you're not going to have the axial strikes in your hand, is basically what you're saying.
very, very seldom. I've never been bit by an adult.
That's amazing.
And I was only bit by these during the initial sexing of the babies, determining the sex.
And everything's going to bite when you're checking under the hood. Nobody likes that,
That's a little
right?
invasive for them, sure.
Absolutely. Kurt, anything else you want to add?
No.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Now, if you're a Patreon member, go ahead and check out the Patreon video we're going to attach to this for a little bit more information. If not, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.